chronic relapsing brain disease characterized by compulsive drug use, even when someone is experiencing negative consequences. Meaning that if someone is afflicted by this disease, they'll continue using this substance even when their world is falling apart, and they may not even see that it's falling apart.
Dr. Amy, what are some of these drugs that people get addicted to?
People not only get addicted to drugs only, but they can also get addicted to behaviors like gambling, sex, pornography. But for this case, someone can get addicted to drugs like, we have the street drugs like heroin, cocaine, marijuana, and also the medical opioids, all drugs that are pethidine, tramadol, codeine, fentanyl, morphine, and others out there.
Thank you, Dr. Amy. How do people start using these drugs?
Anyone can actually can use drugs, and people start using drugs in different ways. For instance, most of these drugs, as Amy has made mention, they're medically prescribed. So if someone, let me give an example of someone who had a C-section, might be given pethidine. So when one misuses this pethidine, they end up getting addicted to it. Then we also have those that are actually experimenting it. For instance, the youth in schools where their fellow peers are using, let me say, marijuana or tobacco, they end up using it also to get that excitement, to know what is really out there. Then we also have people doing self-medication. For instance, those having stresses, psychological problems, they tend to use these drugs, trying to replace it, using it as a replacement or as a relief of the pain that maybe they had before.
How does this disease you have called addiction progress from someone who starts until they reach a point of what we can call someone that now this person is an addict?
The start can be experimental, as she indicated, in case someone is introduced to drugs by a peer or by anyone around them, and then they get a dopamine surge, like a surge of excitation, which lasts longer than any natural reward can give. And it's much more than any of the natural rewards give. So this excitement can cause someone to continue using the drugs occasionally until they need it every day to live a relatively normal life, up to when they use it compulsively, even when they have negative consequences.
Yeah. What would be some of the negative consequences, if you may?
That leads me to the signs and symptoms of this disease. One can start using it and it can affect them at work. One may be, maybe, for example, the opioids we are talking about can cause them to sleep, and this will not leave out work. Someone will end up sleeping a lot at work, failure to show up at work, failure to concentrate, dysregulation of moods. Someone gets annoyed easily. Someone who was more regulated gets out of range. And there you start questioning what could be going on. Someone's finances can be affected since these drugs are bought with money, and the use can easily get out of occasional to frequent to compulsive. So it will take up a lot of one's money and it will affect their finances. They may not meet their obligations as a son, as a daughter, as a parent, as a worker, and so on. So it doesn't leave out any aspect of one's life when it comes to the worst case scenarios. meaning that we can have a cost in terms of incarceration. Someone can end up stealing so as to continue using drugs. Someone can lose a career, can lose a family, can lose literally everything around them when they are using drugs, even when these negative things are happening around them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Liz. Addiction is a serious problem in our community these days, and I believe that you have been able to understand what addiction is. And in our next segment, we want to talk about how we can be able to alleviate the addiction problem. Thank you very much.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
You are watching the DOCtalk show.
MTN tusako hajaruna mbiru live in concert Friday nga mwenda August hajaruna mbiru huyo kusenda hotel Rockta nunga mwenda August mwishoja atumia hajaruna mbiru live in concert VIP ya mtwalo 15 tukawa jigula kumomo ya mtwalo 10 hatemeze ya milioni 3 nyiga kamunyenye emo mkaga 5 kamunyenye 20 kadara oba downloading ya momo app wakule ticket ku sente ntono nga 10 August kolini hotel mukono ticket ya shinzo mtwalo gumu bo jigula ngo kosa momo jigula 15 VIP mtwalo 3 nga 10 August Maria Frema Saka shinze mtwalo 2 bo jigula ngo kosa momo ya mtwalo gumu VIP mtwalo 5 ate momo mtwalo 3 n'ekitundu bitegekedwa keti events olone biwagirwa
MTN. Together, we're unstoppable.
You are watching the DOCtalk show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Good evening, our viewers, once again. This is the DOCtalk show. Welcome back from that break. We have been talking about addiction and substance abuse. We would like to continue from where we stopped. Dr. Liz, you mentioned earlier that it's hard for someone who has started using drugs to stop using them. We would like to know, why is it hard for someone to stop using drugs once they start?
A lot happens with the brain when someone continues to use drugs. The excitement, the dopamine surge that occurs when someone uses some of these substances is way beyond what the natural rewards give, meaning that one may seek for this reward, for this excitement, which usually takes much longer than what natural rewards do, and also is way higher than what natural rewards give. So with sustained use, the brain is rewired. This is because it wasn't designed to feel such levels of excitement. So the dopamine receptors reduce and the amount of dopamine released naturally reduces, meaning that someone ceases to enjoy the things that were previously enjoyable, and the only excitement they only get it from the drugs. The rewiring of this brain causes someone to perceive the drugs as equivalent to life, meaning that one can do literally anything because this drug has so much value due to the rewiring of the midbrain, and it's not a matter of choice, it's not a matter of volition at this level. It's way beyond what a decision can make. Someone at this level needs treatment to get out of this level of incarceration of the brain by the drugs.
Thank you, Dr. Liz. We have helped clients who are addicted to drugs. Before we go to how we can help them, our viewers, I think, would like to know what are some of these disadvantages that the drugs have caused.
People who take these illegal drugs that may cause an addiction to them may be isolated from families because they have an addiction. They may start selling off property from their homes. Others have their marriages broken down. Others lose their jobs. Their careers are disrupted. Others even lose their family members. If someone is married, if they have children, the interaction with their families lowers down. They lose the normal functioning as a person, as an individual. You don't function on a normal basis, like one who doesn't take drugs. And even they change the way they live. You may find that some of them start staying in ghettos. They take ghettos as their next place where they can be and stay. So the drugs are not really good. They take away the functioning of an individual and they start functioning like as if they don't really exist on this earth.
Thank you, Dr. Amy. In relation to HIV, Dr. Brenda, and the decision these clients, all these individuals who are using drugs make, what can you be able to talk about?
In relation to HIV, since Amy has said and Dr. Liz, in that those that are using these drugs, their normal functioning is actually literally taken away. Meaning if someone is intoxicated, or let me give an example, if someone is drunk, meaning they cannot really function well enough to be able to say, maybe I can't have sex with you without a condom. Meaning that bit of condom use is very poor. Now, when we have people who do inject drugs, there are very high chances that they're actually going to share these needles that they use. You don't know the status of the other person who has injected, and they have a habit of injecting in groups, or maybe I don't have money today for buying the drugs. So my colleague, Alice, for instance, has money and has already bought the drugs and has taken it and is well intoxicated. I'm going to tell Alice to inject his own blood or her blood, and she gives me and I also inject so that I can get the same high that she has. So there are very high risk of HIV transmission among this category of people, not forgetting the blood-borne diseases. For instance, hepatitis, the B and C. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, allow us to talk about what MAT is and the services that we offer. Dr. Liz, our viewers would like to know, what is MAT? We've been talking about MAT. We are from MAT. We'd like to know, what is MAT?
MAT is medication-assisted therapy. Here we use medications in addition to behavioral interventions and psychotherapy to treat addiction. WHO listed it as one of the interventions that has shown sustainable better outcome especially for people who use and inject with opioids. Opioids is a class of drugs. Some of them are illegal, some of them are legal, and they can be prescribed for the right purposes in hospitals. The illegal opioid is heroin on our market. The legal opioids include pethidine, tramadol, codeine, fentanyl, oxycodone, among others. These are medications used to treat pain rationally and sometimes irrationally. And when someone experiences an overt height from these drugs, they can end up using it frequently to obtain the same. And in no time, the person can't live without this drug. What happens when I don't inject or smoke the heroin when I had started? Apart from the emotional, the social, the economic factors we mentioned earlier, there are physical factors that can be seen with the eye. when I don't use the drug or when I use it. For this particular class of drugs, if I don't use them, I'll be withdrawing from them. For example, I can feel very cold, my body can hurt, I can feel extremely weak, I can experience vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, sweating, coldness, and a myriad of other symptoms and signs that can be seen by the health workers on assessment. These are real signs, and some parents can be pushed to buying these drugs to prevent these sins, these dreaded sins, because they are quite uncomfortable and they really look nasty. In 2021, 1 in 17 people used illicit drugs according to the World Drug Report. And this is something big. This is something we can prevent. This is something we can treat. The same World Drug Report published by UNODC indicates that the chances of someone dying from an opioid overdose is 1 in 16. That's quite high. We are not willing to lose these individuals. Now, with the sustainable success that medication-assisted therapy has shown globally, the Ministry of Health, along with PEPFAR, CDC, and Reach Out Mbuya is currently running the MAT clinic in Butabika, with another MAT clinic in Bale to provide services for people grappling with opioid use disorder. I should mention that a number of people grappling with this issue also have other substance use disorders, and there are myriad of interventions performed by a multidisciplinary, super specialized team within these settings to address these challenges and to help these people get back on their feet, function, and even get better and leave the service at some point.
Thank you, Dr. Liz. She has explained very well what MAT is. When you come to MAT, we'll give you the medicine, which is either methadone or buprenorphine, but along those drugs, there is what we call behavioral intervention, which we call the therapy. So a client will come in and be helped to identify the problems that led them to start using drugs. When we identify these problems that will include some of the triggers, we are able to give them a sustainable solution and also to prevent further relapse. So that is what MAT is all about. So before we can go for a short break, Dr. Brenda, can you help us go through quickly what are some of the benefits of MAT?
Thank you very much. As you've made mention that MAT, it's not all about the medicine itself. It has two arms. We have the medical bit, then we have the behavior change, which is the psychotherapy bit. So one benefit is that she talked about the withdrawals that one can get. For those that are using these drugs, if one doesn't inject, they'll get all those withdrawals. But the methadone, or the drugs that we provide to these patients, it's opioid substitution, meaning it is going to substitute whatever withdrawal that the other person would have got because of not using the drug, one wouldn't get it. So it prevents these withdrawals. Then it also improves the social, physical, psychological well-being of this patient, in that when someone comes to the MAT clinic, we are not only looking at maybe your mental health alone or just one aspect of your life, but we are looking at you as an individual and treating you wholefully, in that if you have physical issues, if we can support, we can. Psychological issues, if there are cases that we actually need to refer, we are in a hospital, Butabika Hospital. So we have all the services that we can provide. Then MAT clinic itself also provides, since we talked about behavior, one is able to get skills through behavior therapy. One can learn skills, different skills on how they can actually cope outside there in the community, because you're not going to stay at the MAT clinic for the rest of your life. At some point, you need to reintegrate back into the community. Maybe I would stop here. We shall continue in the next segment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are going to take a short break and then we shall come back.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
You are watching the DOCtalk Show. You are watching the DOCtalk Show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Good evening, viewers. This is the DOCtalk Show. I'm Alice Katengeke, clinical psychologist from the MAT Clinic. Once again here with my colleagues, Dr. Amy, Brenda, and Dr. Liz. We are continuing with our topic of addiction and substance use disorders. And then we had talked about what MAT is. Dr. Liz explained very well what medically assisted therapy is, the services we offer. And Dr. Brenda was taking us through the benefits of MAT. Dr. Brenda, please continue giving us some of the benefits of MAT from where you stopped from in the last segment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One other benefit of MAT is also there is an increased chance of recovery, or there is an increased chance of long-term recovery. In that, we should put in mind that MAT is an harm reduction intervention, meaning we are trying to reduce harm and also trying to prolong the life of this person. In what way? If someone is not under any therapy or any treatment at all, we have seen cases of people dying where they stay, meaning there are high chances of overdose. So if we are able to prevent this person who used to inject like 100 ampoules in a day of pethidine to inject like 2 or 3, or to not inject at all completely at some point in time, that is where we say that we are trying to prolong also this person's life, or trying to make this person reach a point of recovery. Then MAT also helps, as I said, to prevent, to reduce chances of overdose, in that when someone is enrolled onto MAT, there are the psychotherapy bit of it, someone is taken how to maybe prevent this kind of overdose acts that appear.
Maybe also to add on, it can help us prevent the HIV and hepatitis B and other diseases. Dr. Amy, who can benefit from this MAT program?
Thank you very much. Any individual or person who is dependent on injecting drugs or injectable drugs is eligible for this program, the MAT program. By injectable drugs, as earlier mentioned by Dr. Liz, we have the heroin, the pethidine, the tramadol that can be injectable. So anyone who is in that category is eligible for MAT. However, there are people who are not in position to access the MAT because of severe liver disease, people with allergies and hypersensitivity to the medications that are given at MAT. Anyone who is taking any medications that may interact with the medications given at MAT, like someone with an alcohol use disorder, someone who takes sleeping pills like benzodiazepines, anyone who may not be able to comply with the treatment plan. Allow me mention that the MAT clinic runs from Monday to Sunday. It is a daily treatment. So anyone who may not be able to attend on a daily basis may not be able to access MAT. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amy. Dr. Brenda, how can one access MAT?
Like any other service that you would get from a health facility, you can move, let me say, from home to a health center 2 and get all the medication that you need. It's quite a bit different, or it's a specialized clinic in that we have a community arm. The community arm does the mobilization from the ghetto. Then they also help in the screening of these patients that could be actually eligible for MAT before they are referred to the MAT clinic. So the community health, the community CSO that we use at the moment is Uganda Arm Reduction. They do the screening for MAT and preparation. Then when a patient is ready to actually be referred to the MAT clinic, then the patient is referred to the MAT clinic. Now, we should also know that MAT is not the only option for addiction treatment, like treatment in addiction or drug use. So when a patient, as she has said, there are other patients that might not actually qualify for MAT due to the various reasons that she has indicated. So for those that do not qualify for MAT, we are in Butabika Hospital. There are very specialized departments within this hospital that actually handles addiction. So for those that do not qualify for MAT, they are either referred to inpatient or to other clinics within Butabika Hospital.
Dr. Lee, there's a problem with stigma, especially when we tell people that this service is found in Butabika Hospital. Would you like to enlighten our viewers how we are able to offer this service without them feeling stigmatized?
The service is patient-centered and patient-friendly. I'll give an example that any triage in a facility is manned by a nurse or a trained healthcare provider, a clinician, a nurse. But the triage in this facility is manned by people who have lived the experience, have improved through the same intervention, and they know the problem in and out. So the program is patient-friendly, and it's run with constant input from the beneficiaries themselves. We don't run a program basing on what we think or what we know or what we've studied. We run it according to the patient feedback and the established medical facts. So it ends up in a facility, in a mental health facility, because a lot of mental health issues may come up along the way while someone uses drugs. I should say that using substances can be a precursor to getting mental illness, and also mental illness could be a precursor to someone ending up using substances as a way of self-medicating the mental health issues that are not addressed. Additionally, there's constant support of these patients at the drop-in centers with continuous counseling, prevention, HIV prevention services, treatment of sexually transmitted diseases, counseling, and so on. So a client keeps in constant contact with the MAT clinic and a supporting drop-in center where they can also equally rest, take a shower, and so on. I should also establish context in the word ghetto that we are using. Certainly because I'm a ghetto youth. Anyhow, the ghettos we are mentioning here are the particular places where the drugs are sold, especially the illegal drugs, the illicit drugs. The hotspots is what we are referring to as ghettos, not generally any other thing that the ghettos could imply. So how long can this program be? The MAT program in our setting has two roles. The first one is helping those people who want to quit drugs quit. And it also helps those that may not have established this fact that they want to quit drugs to reduce the harms related to substance use, get back on their feet, while we engage them through their journey to see how they can be better people in society and also be functional. So we recommend maintenance program to run for 1 to 2 years. However, this could run longer for people with certain other challenges along the way, in case someone relapses, in case someone is battling with a major mental illness, and so on. All these other factors can affect how much longer the treatment can be.
Thank you so much. We will continue in our next segment, but I would like to inform our dear viewers that all services at the MAT Clinic are free. Do not be afraid to come and get these services, from counseling to therapy, from the medication, and any other service is free of charge. Thank you very much. We are going to see in the next segment shortly.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
You are watching the DOCtalk show.
Gold. We all want it. That soft yellow glow of a subdued sun in your hands. That precious polish of elegance. To hold it is one thing, but to taste it is everything else. Relish the satisfying taste of a beer, unmatched in quality, unmatched in consistency, and with 23 Global Gold Awards. A beer unmatched in gold.
You are watching the DOCtalk show.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
Welcome back from the short break. This is the DOCtalk show. Please don't forget to follow us on our media platforms. We want to talk about prevention briefly, about preventing substance use in our communities, and how we can be able to treat this problem before it becomes a national problem. Dr. Amy, can you give us one of the ways that we can prevent substance use?
Okay, for those who are going through emotional distress, kindly seek support from the people that you feel comfortable talking to. It may be a friend, it may be a teacher for those who are in school, it may be your parent, your sibling, or even you can go for advanced help like seeking help from a therapist or a psychologist.
Thank you. I can talk about sensitization. Drug use is a very big problem in our community these days amongst the youth, in boarding schools, day schools, everywhere. So any person there who has information on substance use, we would like to call upon you to sensitize these children in schools, gatherings like church services, mosques, burials, any place that you feel you can pass on this information. We sensitize our communities that this problem is there and it's very big, and it's not only that the people from the ghetto who are affected, but even corporate people, people in bigger offices, anyone is prone to becoming a drug addict.
For those that have not yet started using, please do not start. Then maybe to the school-going children, the campusers, or those out in the community, avoid peer pressure, avoid people that are actually going to lure you into using this kind of drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, any other drug that can actually end up leading you to addiction. And for those, you can also try to avoid places. If you feel that when you go near a bar, you're tempted, or you have that urge of using whatever thing is sold in that place, try to avoid the places.
Thank you. Dr. Liz, can you help us with early identification as a mechanism in overcoming drug addiction?
Thank you very much. There is help, there is treatment, and it's available in our country, decentralized in the different facilities all over the country. So I want to re-emphasize the need to diagnose the mental illnesses and seek for help early. Some of these illnesses can be treated with good prognosis. And if untreated, they affect a lot to do with our mood, how we see things, and so on. They have a lot to do with affecting our sleep and so many other aspects of our lives. And people can end up self-medicating with drugs of abuse while not knowing that they are heading to a deeper abyss. So it's important to seek for mental health care when someone has a mental health challenge early on as a prevention of getting hooked onto substances. There is a need for us not to self-medicate on either licit or illicit substances as a way of treating our own mental health issues. You don't just run into a pharmacy to buy sleeping pills because you're grappling with sleeping problems. That's not right. Please don't do it. Not all pain is treated by certain medications. So it's important for us to seek for proper help to address our health issues without self-medicating and ending up with this.
Thank you, Dr. Liz. As we are coming to the end of our program, we have some of our patients who have success stories and would like to show you some of these success stories and see how far they came from where they were to where they are now, and how much has been able to alleviate this problem.
For the last 20 years, I've been suffering with that addiction of heroin, which I didn't just wake up in the morning and I started using, but this was under what we may call peer pressure, friends, and the communities in which we happen to stay. My experience to learning these drugs, it came as a proposal from a friend that I happened to see on numerous times and numerous occasions, who used to do what we call a cocktail. A cocktail, this is when someone gets marijuana, the so-called injaga in our local language here, and then he mixes it with a certain powder according to the quantities and according to the abilities of his pocket. He could roll something very small compared to a cigarette size. And I could see him say, we call it nopping in the ghetto language, or in English it is called nopping, when someone is intoxicated with a certain drug and then he feels depressed. The depression is experienced from soon as he happens to take or to smoke that substance that he has mixed within both ganja and the so-called powder, which is the heroin in brackets. But because I used to see him smoking a very slim castic of looked like ganja, and he could get what we call the kick. The result of the smoking, after someone has gotten the result, we call it a kick. So I could see him always on numerous occasions taking small blunt, small kind of cigarette in the size of a cigarette, but very small compared to the size of a cigarette. So I could see him getting happier than even someone that has taken in 4 beers. So I wanted to get that hype also. I wanted to get that feeling that particular day. And then he gave me a puff, 1, 2, 3. When I got in those puffs, my friend, I felt like I was in the air. I felt so happy. I felt so determined to doing anything that I could do, regardless of what. When it came to around like 9 a.m., 10, 11, I started feeling my body like as I'm weak. That weakness began with the joints. I felt like my joints are no longer stronger like as they used to be. But when my friend came, the one that introduced me to that substance, He came at around 11:30 a.m. I was still in bed. Then he told me, you don't worry. Wait a bit, that is not fever. You are just weak, but I'm going to give you something to make you strong. I asked him, is it that usual thing that I happen to see you doing, or the one that we did last night? He told me, yeah. He started mixing it there because he could mix it even when he could visit with me at my Kakuri where I used to rent. I lit it myself. Can you imagine? I didn't want to return it back to him because of what I felt that moment. I felt like all the weakness that I've been experiencing has gone away. I joined it that way. Now, for those following days after he had introduced me to that, he could come and pay me a visit every morning, like as maybe he had a thought in him to first see me hooked on that drug. Because after 4 days, I started yearning for it. I've been addicted for over 19 years. Before they introduced the medication-assisted treatment here in Uganda, it has been a turmoil in all my life, because if at all they didn't introduce this medication, I understand many people would have lost their lives, with me inclusive.
Been sober 3 years now, was in addiction for 27 years. During that time, I lost friends, I dropped out of school, I became a liar. I got into addiction because I was looking to belong. Mainly, I didn't have any other issues, but I looked to belong. I was in senior 4 when I started heroin use. As it's a point where a girl is lost, where a girl needs direction, which somehow I did not get, and I ended up with a friend who used heroin. And that's how I got hooked. Within 3 days, I was already addicted. Within 3 days, my body was demanding. And that was the rest of my story for 27 years, until I discovered MAT Clinic. Until I discovered the MAT Clinic and I got help. And I've been sober, like I said, 3 years. I have gone back to living a normal life. I actually even got lucky and I was hired at the MAT Clinic.
These clients started when they were down, they were very ill, they couldn't function, they were very unkempt. But as we speak, as you'll see, as they share, you see that there's a difference in their lives. So we want to say that MAT is helping the nation out there. And if you know someone who can be helped, who is using or injecting drugs, please don't hesitate to refer them to the MAT Clinic. Once again, MAT Clinic services are all free, no payment. Please come and get treated. And thank you so much. We have come to the end of our program. Remember, this has been the DOCtalk show. I've been Alice. This is
Immaculate Nabulia.
Brenda Joel. Please come and we are waiting for you here at the MAT Clinic. Remember, services are all free. Don't hesitate to come for help or refer anyone who needs services to come at the MAT Clinic. And don't forget to follow us on our media platforms. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from partners.
UBC, inspiring Uganda. This weekend on UBC.
The project entirely is an immigration center for passport issuance, so that people don't move longer distances from Seguru, from Arua, from decentralization. People from the north will be getting there passports from this office. The money has been fully disbursed to Ministry of Defense, and the Ministry of Defense has given the executing agency, the engineers, all the money. And we are in the final stages of the project. And also, I thank the UPDF leadership for availing me with enough money power to do the work and really giving us a conducive atmosphere to execute such works. So really, I'm happy we did the work on time. We had enough personnel. Then when it comes to the local community, as a policy, 40% of the workers came from the locality. Constructed out of good materials, and it is of quality and really done in time. This building, which is 3 floors, is nearing completion. Almost is 97% done. What is remaining are a few touches. That's why I'm saying by the end of September, we shall be handing it over.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having a disability is not inability.
Professional guidance.
There is no special antiretroviral therapy that is given specifically for discordant couples.
And of course, politics.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for Anita Monga and Tayebo?
That is laughable. Why would we pay when we have nominated them as SEC?
Every party has been represented in Uganda's parliament for 10 years. We only
by one MP, you yourself.
And my daughter, Susan.
Every Friday 9 p.m. it's One-on-One with Michael Jordan Lukomwa on UBC TV, inspiring Uganda.
On 6th of June 2024, MTN Uganda launched a 30-day edition of Employee Volunteerism Initiative, tagged 21 Days of Yellow Care, extending it to 30 days this year to celebrate Group's 30th anniversary. This year's edition, themed Learn Today, Lead Tomorrow, Education for Rural and Remote Communities, addressed persistent education disparities faced by underserved regions in Uganda. It reiterated MTN's steadfast commitment to drive innovation, connectivity, and impact-based social initiatives.
And the reason why we are doing 30 days of Yellow Care is because we want to go out into the whole of the country, the whole of Uganda, interacting with customers, especially with children from schools that are in remote and rural communities, and seeing what we as MTNs can be able to do to give back to them.
The project, valued at over 600 million Uganda shillings, has benefited different government-aided schools across the country. Schools received ICT lab equipment with computers and internet and solar panels for steady power supply. There was also a construction of multipurpose student sheds, planting of fruit trees and vegetables, installation of water purifiers, and enhancing female student skills to produce reusable sanitary pads.
We've been spending a lot, for example, on the water, but now with the provision of the tanks, the costs are going to go down, which is going to enable us to carry out other activities in our institution.
As a senior first student, I'm going to use these computers for research, for more research about the new curriculum.
Let me say, each and every one of us is now having a computer of where he can practice, where he can do something and then gain the skills.
Schools that have benefited from the program include Kansanga Seed Secondary School in Kampala, St. Joseph's Aid Society in Chankwanze District, Ongongoja Secondary School in Katakwe District, Ariwa Secondary School in Yombe District, and Bishop Dunstan Subuga Memorial School in Kalangala District. The initiative also aligns with the government program on implementing the competence-based curriculum, the Digital Transformation Roadmap, and Uganda's Vision 2040.
Buba buvunaanyizibwa bwa local governments okulaba nga twempawalinga amasomero gaffe abaana batuuke ku mutindo waakiri ogw'eggwanga lyonna oba ensi yonna mu byenjigiriza. Kati ebyo byonna nga district tetubisobola olwa budget ebanga tetusobozesa kukola bintu ebyo byonna. Kale bwe tufuna abayambi bano nga ba MTN ne baba nga baddizaako abantu bannayuganda.
Now in its 17th year, 21 Days of Yellow Care is MTN's flagship employee volunteerism program. It reflects on the company's core belief of making a difference in the lives of people it serves.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Hello and welcome to News Tonight. I am Rhoda Ngonzi, on sign language, Dorothy Namuyomba. Let us dig into it. President Yoweri Museveni has met leaders of the ghetto SACCOs in Kampala metropolitan area at State House in Tebe. Now, the group included 100 ghetto youth leaders who are also heads of the 12 ghetto SACCOs in Kampala, Wakiso and Mukono. The beneficiaries of the SACCOs are from Rubaga, Kasangati, Kampala Central Division, Nakawa Division, Machinde East, Kawempe South, Machinde West, Kawempe North, Mukono Industrial, among others.
The people who have turned education into a business.
Kati bano abantu abafudde ebyenjigiriza yaffe abagifudde business ey'okunoonyaamu ssente.
They are the ones benefiting.
Bo bali mu kufunamu nga bagaggawala.
So when you say the youth, when I was a youth, those are the issues I was talking about.
Kati mwe bumujja
here you don't have to fight.
Wano temwetaaga kulwana.
Here you just need to talk.
Wano muyina kwogera.
To talk and to follow, that's all. It's a small job.
Mwogere ate era mugoberere, ogwo gwe mulimu gwokka gwe muyina okukola.
Previously, a number of people would lobby for ghetto youth from government, get resources, but those resources never reached the intended recipients. And as I speak now, we are talking about 3,280 savers in the 12 SACCOs. And to assure you that this intervention has started to give us benefits. Criminality in Kampala, Mukono and Wakiso has gone down tremendously.
Lw'endabika yaffe batulabanga abatazzeeyo oba ssente sikitegeera naye ne batukuba tekinikale tebatuwa information kukunga bannaffe kulaba nga twetaba mu programs ezo. Ne nsaba muzeeyi nti ngaffe abaana ba ghetto oyambe Meja Kuteesa ne General Damulira batukolereyo akabaluwa structure yaffe eyingizibwe muli mu concept omwo ey'emyoga ne PDM nga batuleetanga special group olwo ffe abakulembeze ba ghetto kitukakateko okwogera n'okugenda wansi ku ground okukunga abavubuka bannaffe.
Watusuubiza nti ogenda tuwa ssente. Bangi baatugamba nti oyo mukulu abalimba. Era bannabyabufuzi bangi ne batugamba ako kawaani mwana tekaliyo. Modda bintu ebyabo abasajja omanyi bano abakulu babayita bujjama nti muli mu bintu by'obujjama naye kawaani mugenda kuddaawo babasibire bwereere. Naye olw'okubanga Meja Kuteesa ne General Damulira we bajja mu ghetto baatukakasa. Twasalawo ne tugamba we buba bujama katugenda Izulu. We banaaba batukwata Mungu bw'anaaba ageze. Naye abantu bano ekkubo lye baakola lyali tuufu. Tusiima nnyo okutuukiriza obweyamo bwe watuwa.
Meanwhile, Gabon's transitional president Brice Oligui Nguema has today arrived in Uganda for a 2-day official visit. He was received by President Yoweri Museveni and flanked by the First Lady Janet Museveni at State House in Entebbe. The two leaders and their delegation later engaged in comprehensive discussions encompassing the political landscape in Gabon, particularly focusing on the ongoing transition process. President Museveni commended Oligui Nguema for the strides made thus far in restoring constitutional order. A pivotal aspect of the talks centered on augmenting bilateral cooperation with a particular emphasis on agriculture. Gabon expressed a keen interest in leveraging Uganda's expertise in agricultural development to bolster its own food production and diminish reliance on imports. Now, both leaders reiterated their dedication to fortifying ties between the two nations, exploring avenues for collaboration across various sectors. President Oligui Nguema extended an invitation to President Yoweri Museveni to visit Gabon, which was cordially accepted. Now, the police have been encouraging traders in downtown Kampala to open their shops and abandon the sit-down strike. Officers were spotted on most of Kampala's downtown streets, promising safety and security for those who chose to resume business. Most traders in the city centre closed their shops on July 31st after a much-anticipated meeting with the president to address their grievances flopped.
Traders in the Kampala city centre embarked on a sit-down strike to oppose the ongoing implementation to the electronic physical receipting and invoicing solution (IFRIS) system by the Uganda Revenue Authority and concerns of hefty taxation. This protest followed the cancellation of their scheduled meeting with President Museveni on the 31st of July 2024. The traders' leadership is urging the government to address their grievances. Failure to do their business will remain locked indefinitely. They request President Museveni to personally address their concerns.
Olwokuba President bitwamusaba teyabituukiriza tusazeewo kubanga tugalawo amaduuka gaffe paka awulirize ensonga zaffe.
President nze nkusaba nga nze Kayihura Mike okubuliji owino nkusaba vaayo yitaba n'amawulire tuula ku TV y'eggwanga ne radio z'eggwanga fena tukutege tukuwulirize kabeera ali ebushenyi kabeera ali ekasese
kololo bali mu kumukola naye nga tulina ebisaawo ebitwetoolodde wano osobola okumiitingira abasuubuzi nga nakivubo.
The traders' protests highlight the broader challenges faced by business owners in Uganda, including regulatory pressures and the need for supportive government policies. The situation remains tense within the Kampala Central Business District, with traders determined to keep their businesses closed.
Tetugenda pima ngoye nga nnyama jawe ngoyo zipima mu kilo ng'ennyama kubanga naffe betuziguza tebasobola zigulira mwate naawe tozigulangako. Tugamba nti ba investor bonna etteeka ligamba nti investor bw'anaakolanga business